Zach, dude, you won't believe this. I was over in the Entertainment parking lot over on Platt. And you know that new Fantastic Four movie that came out?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, First Steps. Dude, I'm so excited. I got that Blu-ray early. Some guy was selling like leaked copies or something out of his car. Yeah, I know. It was like $50, but it was worth it. Here, check it out, man.
Michael, I don't know if this is First Steps.
Dude, it is. It's got the cover on and everything. Look at it, man.
Michael, this is the Fantastic
It says
Four
Fantastic Four on the disc.
Technically, I think it says Four Stick. Yeah.
What?
I think you got the 2015 movie.
What? No, what? Movies on fire. Movies on fire. So, Zach, we are talking about Fantastic Four.
We are.
Four Stick. Okay. So, when I pitched this to you, because this was a deliberate decision, when I asked you to watch this movie with me, I said we were going to be kind to it. We were going to give it a fair shake.
That's true.
And, I think we've done that.
I believe we did as well as we possibly could.
Yeah, not only did we watch the movie last Sunday, about a week ago, we checked out some of the special features. You and I, we went through the marketing. We watched the trailers. I've attempted to understand the production process, troubled as it was. And, what we have here, if it sounds a little bit mean, we're really not trying to be mean.
No, you especially really wanted to go into this with positive intentions and feelings.
I wanted to give this the fairest shake I possibly could. And you know what? Believe it or not, there are some things that, I think are laudable in this movie that, I think, I can appreciate, from a technical standpoint. And, I'm not going to spoil who, but, I think there's a pretty good performance in this movie.
There's at least one.
Yeah, there's definitely at least one, maybe two. And, without further ado, actually, Zach, for those of you who don't know, it turns out there's a whole series of comics dating all the way back to the 1960s.
That's true.
Called the Fantastic Four. There was like this little independent remake, actually, of Fan Four Stick that came out earlier this summer that you may have heard me refer to earlier in the cold open. But look, Zach, you gave me a Fantastic Four comic to read. I really enjoyed it. I thought it had some strong art direction. The characters were fun, whimsical. It was like a very upbeat story about eccentric people with eccentric abilities coming up with creative solutions to cosmic problems. I really enjoyed this story, and I just want to know, what attracted you to these characters and this universe and this property?
Yeah, so I have not been a lifelong Fantastic Four fan by any means. I came to it relatively recently, but I've read a lot of the comics. I've committed to reading through all of them, actually, that are not the weird spin-offs or terrible Fantastic Four stuff in the 90s. But I came to it because I love sci-fi. This is Marvel's kind of sci-fi property in the main, outside of X-Men, which does weirder conceptual stuff. And it's pretty much exactly what you mentioned. It is optimistic. It is all about family, but not in a way that is... well, sometimes in a way that's overly saccharine. But for the most part, it tries to present people as not horribly flawed, but relatively real. They're a little bit better, but to use Jack Kirby's terms, that we can do better, that we can be better, that we can be the people that we lionize. That ultimately the Fantastic Four are similar to us in a lot of respects, but they're the best of us. And that's one thing that I really found compelling about it, in addition to what you mentioned, is this is a scientific fiction property, science fiction story that has in its core the idea that there is no problem that cannot be solved, that we can, through working together, through applying different skills, we can fix whatever. That isn't to say there won't be problems that come up. That isn't to say that there won't be issues or even that we won't fight about them, but that there is no problem that cannot be solved. And that is core to the Fantastic Four identity. It's very fun. I would not recommend it to someone seeking an edgy or dark comic. Every time they try to do that, it is absolutely terrible. But if you're looking for something that is enjoyable, that is upbeat, that has an optimistic tone without ever forgetting that there are negatives to most of what it's portraying, it's quite good. There's frequently some really good runs if you ever want some really fantastic comics to read through.
Now, without necessarily coming down too hard on the movie, would you say that this film that we're reviewing today, would you say this movie is consistent with the comics?
No. It was very early on when we were watching this movie that I basically just took a step back and had to decide, like, yeah, this is not a Fantastic Four movie. It's something different, and I'm going to try and enjoy it. Not as an adaptation of Fantastic Four, but as a different movie.
Yeah. This was a very... God, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be kind to this movie, but this was a bit of a chore to get through.
Yeah, this was a mess, but a boring mess.
Yeah, which, I think they're... the more I read about this, the more I'm convinced that Josh Trank wanted to make a follow-up to Chronicle in the vein of a David Cronenberg movie that maybe sort of subverts some of the tropes we've seen in Fantastic Four. And, to be fair, there are other successful media properties that have done this. The Venture Bros, which was I believe a Cartoon Network Adult Swim series that was, pretty lauded. People, love it. I actually really enjoyed the Venture Brothers. They had a very funny Fantastic Four send-up that actually kind of played with the body horror of the characters, which, that's great because it works in the context of a 22-minute cartoon. The Incredibles doesn't necessarily lean into the body horror, but it's not a Fantastic Four movie either. I mean, it's definitely paying a lot of homages, but it's kind of taking the original premise and it's running with it and it's doing its own thing.
It's playing in its own playground. It takes a very different tack towards that question of working together that FF is core with. It seems to idolize a little bit more individual achievement than Fantastic Four's more communal work.
Yeah. And this is also a weird movie for me to talk about because this is the first film that I think we've reviewed on here that really one of the first films I've talked about on a podcast that feels incomplete.
Yeah, that was a remarkable piece. We've seen movies that are bad, right? Everyone has. And we've seen movies that have studio interference where it feels chopped up, it feels incoherent, it feels worked on. I've never encountered a movie that gives you the feeling like walking into a video game and being like an hour in and just realizing like something went wrong here. Either the publisher didn't give them enough money or didn't give enough time, or like someone on the development team just like failed to get the production right. And it's not done. Like they didn't complete it. The NPCs are T-posing, like there's bugs everywhere. Like the game is just not a game. This movie gives you that feeling. I've never seen that before.
So we sat down after this was finished because I wanted answers. Okay, I put on my Sherlock Holmes detective hat. I put on my monocle. I smoked a pipe. And I was like, hey, we're going to go through the special features. We're going to see if we can't hunt down some answers. And
such as they were. Dude, there was not much on the disc.
It was like a 30-minute making of documentary?
If 30 minutes.
Maybe 20 minutes, I think. It was unique because of the 20 minutes we watched that documentary. Trank, the director, Josh Trank, he was only in it for, I'm going to be generous, 2 minutes.
Maybe that. Yeah, he clearly did not want anything to do with it. The majority of the documentary, which was the only like filmed portion on the special features, was mostly visual effects people. And I definitely think those are the people who did the best job on this movie. Like they seemed to have really tried. But yeah, the director was nowhere. The cinematographer really wasn't present. There's certainly no screenwriter, and we know part of the reason for that. Once again, it just feels like an incomplete bonus feature of like a larger whole, but there is no larger whole.
Yeah, I mean, this is a film that I think it started out on maybe a napkin as one idea, right? Because, Trank, God, I'm like, this is an odd movie because normally when we go through these Movies on Fire episodes, I have a funny plot rundown where we basically break down the movie with a less is more kind of humorous attitude. And first of all, that won't work because this is not a funny movie. There's no humor in this film.
Not because it is horrifying or scary, but because it is boring.
Yeah. God bless. I mean, the thing who's like, he's like how is he depicted in the comics? Because like, I've definitely seen his character change a lot. When I was reading First Steps, he's sort of imagined as like this 1950s era working man, military vet who has a past he's not proud of, but it doesn't define him as a character.
And that's unique to Life Story, which is the comic that I gave to you to read. His core story, he does have a past he's not super proud of. He is a blue-collar Jewish kid from New York's Yancey Street. He grew up running with the Yancey Street gang. He's got some problems. Depending on the era, he may or may not have gone into the military. Depends on which comic you're reading and which time period it's from. And he met Reed Richards in college. So he is a smart guy. You just wouldn't know it from talking to him because he sounds like a New York cabbie, like the first one you met after you stepped off the airplane. But he's a smart guy.
Hey, what do you want over here?
Yeah, precisely.
I'm walking here. What's up with that? There's the portal over there.
The Michael Chiklis thing from the 2005 movies is like bang on.
I mean, he killed it.
Yeah,
He was
perfect.
It was really good in that performance.
But so he's a nice guy at core though. He doesn't want to hurt people. He wants to help others. The Fantastic Four First Steps depiction is pretty close, except that he needs to sound like 100% more New Yorker.
In this movie, Ben Grimm is the product of severe domestic abuse.
Yeah,
it's clobbering time.
Yeah, that was no. It's like a superficial element of the comics that like this has to be in the movie, or we got to put its clobbering time in the movie. But we need to be edgy. Feels like a mid-90s comic. It's just like, we have to make the edgy part of the New York.
These two kids are just being constantly bullied. That's where this movie starts off at. I guess I'll go through the plot charitably. We're introduced to Chibi Reed Richards, who is building a supercomputer out of, what was it, Nintendo 64s or something like that?
Nintendo 64s hooked up.
It should have been PlayStation 3s, but whatever.
I don't think they knew which time period this movie was set in. Frankly, I'm not sure Reed did either.
They say it's 2007, but it kind of looks more like 1994, maybe 1995. It's hard to say, and I feel like that would track just like where Trent grew up, as a kid who was like watching the LA riots go down. But at the same time, this is also New York, so I'm not sure how much credibility.
Is it New York? Did they say it takes place in New York?
It is in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like New York. This movie doesn't really feel like anywhere. Hell, it almost feels like Washington at certain points. I mean, especially when we end it. But point is, Chibi Reed Richards is working on some badass super computer teleporter.
Yep.
And we get to track with him growing up, going to college, and still getting bullied by other people, right?
No, we don't even see him in college. He goes to the high school science fair. They pick him up from there, remember?
Oh, God, that's right. Yeah, you know what, dude, this movie would have made way more sense if all these kids had been like 35-year-old graduate students because they all look really, really old.
Yeah, it's very funny to watch him grab this plane from a child who's like a 14 or 15-year-old. Just be like, hey, kid, give me this plane. I gotta go teleport it.
I mean, not that Miles Teller looks like really old in this movie, but you don't cast him to be a high schooler. I mean,
he looks 20-something. Yeah.
Dude, Tobey Maguire barely got away with it in Spider-Man in 2002, but that's neither here nor there. So they build this wild computer with the help of senior researcher Dr. Storm, who was actually one of my favorite performances in this movie, played by Reg E. Cathy. Wonderful actor. His daughter, Susan Storm, played by Katie Mara, reluctantly.
Adopted daughter.
And yes, adopted daughter, thank you. And his son, Johnny Storm, played by Michael B. Jordan, who, dude, he's like the only guy in the making of VFX who's actually happy to be here.
He seemed excited. I was happy to see him.
He seemed really happy to be working on this movie, and I'll give it to him, man. He is a highlight of this movie.
He's definitely the best performance.
See what I did there? He's a highlight. He's on fire
because he's the human highlighter.
Waka waka waka.
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best performance, if that means anything to you.
Hell, he has like the cool scene in the movie, like where he's drag racing. That's awesome.
That's right.
That's like awesome. That scene, look, this movie stops for like 2 minutes in the first like 30 to be a really cool like Need for Speed adaptation.
Yeah.
Which, hey, dude, Josh Trank probably would have made an okay Need for Speed movie.
That's the Fantastic and the Furious,
Yeah, that would have been really cool. Point is, with Victor Von Goon, am I reading that right?
Yeah, we get to Victor, right? He's seemingly a former Flame of Zeus. That's not explained.
Yeah, nothing is explained. These characters get zero background, but
we do find Victor in his like gamer cave.
He's kind of like I hate to throw around the word incel, but yeah, he gives very incel vibes. Yeah. Like I don't want to know what, dude. I don't want to know what this Victor Von Doom has been posting on 4chan. Okay, it's all bad juju.
I mean, to be fair, Doom in the comics is like a fascistic tyrant, so I guess that's a way to bring him into the 21st century.
You know what? That actually tracks. If that was on purpose, that was a smart move.
I don't think that was on purpose.
Regardless, the Fantastic Four do their thing where they've built this insane teleporter using science.
And it goes to another dimension. We didn't mention
graphs, and they go to another dimension.
Well, they don't. If you remember, they send some other people first. They're planning to send other people.
They send a monkey from Planet of the Apes.
Right. They send the monkey. And then they're like, we're going to send the
That was a good-looking monkey.
It was a great-looking monkey.
I mean, of all the CG in this movie, that monkey was like, damn, that's a monkey.
Yeah, that looked like a chimp.
For any of those who have seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it's kind of a familiar monkey. Yeah, maybe a little...
Michael's got the tinfoil hat.
Maybe a little Command-C, Command-V from the VFX assets. They need a monkey. It's the same studio.
They got a good monkey.
And that's a really good looking monkey. It's too good looking. That's my problem with it.
That's why we were suspicious.
No, seriously, it tickled that spot in my brain that I don't think that's right spot. So
so they're gonna send other people, right? Yeah. And the Fantastic Four are like, no, we're gonna go first.
They get drunk and they go to the planet.
Because they become friends off screen in a montage, right? They all eat some like takeout Chinese food. And now they're fast friends.
Yeah, and they get really drunk together, dude. This is probably the biggest damnation of this movie is the whole time we're talking about it, I'm constantly thinking of the better movies it's referencing and inspired by. It's common record that David Cronenberg reached out to Josh Trank to let him know that I'm really happy that people are inspired by my movies. Mm-hmm. And this is The Fly. This is literally the plot of The Fly, where Jeff Goldblum in that film, who plays a brilliant, eccentric scientist, he builds a teleporter that's going to revolutionize transport in society as we know it. He, in a fit of jealousy and resentment and drunkenness, he makes a very silly mistake where he tests it out on himself and he mutates horribly. That is both the plot of The Fly, which executes the premise just a lot better.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that movie's all about emotions. We really get where all the characters are at. It's deconstructing, the male id.
This movie dares politics. To ask, what if The Fly, but there were 4 Jeff Goldblums, and they were all Josh Trank insert characters?
Yeah. Yeah, so they get teleported, they get zapped over to Planet Zero. I think that's the name of it, yes?
That sounds right. Or like Zero Planet?
Zero, it's something like that. And I gain these fantastic powers.
Well, not so fantastic in this movie, actually. Also, they leave Victor behind.
They do. Dr. Victor Von Goon is left behind on this planet, where those blue lights that show up into the air, man, those things are dangerous. You gotta stop around with those.
Well, he doesn't build a blue light till later. He gets eaten by like a green.
That's right. He gets eaten by the green slime that mysteriously. Slime, dude, it looked red in the trailers. What's up with that?
It was red in the trailers.
It was very red in the trailers and in the concept art. But it's neither here nor there.
Yep. But they leave him behind. They go back to the real world, and also Sue gets powers somehow as well. Like she gets powers from like the blowback from the dimensional teleporter.
So they, again, the
she's
VFX,
just chilling in Earth.
the VFX department in the making of featurette we watched, they said that all of their powers are related to Planet Zero and the teleporter, and so she gets hit by some sort of radiation. The wave that pops, out away from it's like a concentric ring of blue energy. She gets hit by blue raz.
Okay, and then she turns invisible.
Yes. Good. That's what happens to Sue Storm in this movie.
And then we get the best 10 minutes of the movie.
Oh God, yeah, no, this was actually dude,
genuinely exceptional body horror.
It was really cool because when they pop back in, it's a wreck,
really cool.
It's got this really cool horror movie lighting, and Man, there's this. It's the best shot in this movie. Would you
Oh
agree?
yeah, when
Break
Reed
it down for me.
basically-
Break it down for
You
me.
hear Ben, who was hit by some rocks when they were coming back, and you hear Ben kind of sounding all gravelly and kind of all sad, and he's like, "Reed, help, help!" So Reed crawls towards him, but then turns back and realizes that his legs were still caught under the wreck, and he's just stretched his legs out to try and go crawl to Ben in the rock pile, which I guess is also Ben at this point because they have to like chisel him out of it. But yeah, that was a really good moment. Just turning around and seeing the stretched legs is very creepy and done very effectively too.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want to do Cronenberg, let's have a whole movie like this. But we don't get the cool Cronenberg homage movie. And
That's
there was another
correct.
film called The Signal that kind of did something similar, like literally a year before on like a $4 million budget.
Not
Great movie.
160
Great
million
movie.
like this one.
If you come away with any recommendations, from listening to this podcast, please go check out The Fly. Go check out The Signal from 2014 with Lawrence Fishburne. Great movies. It's just, the biggest problem with this film is that it keeps on going, man.
Yeah,
And
somehow they get their powers, and the movie gets substantially less interesting.
well, they become DoD contractors next.
Well, no, Reed
Sus-
runs away.
That's right.
So
That's
he goes
right.
into the
Reed,
wilderness.
he squeezes his fantastic through the air ducts.
Yes, he does his fantastic squeeze.
That's right. And he squeezes out of the pipes and is, it's like when I let my cat out of the garage and he just kind of looks around and then he like runs off into the bushes. That's
we don't see
basically
that,
what.
by the way.
Yeah. That's basically what Reed does. When we pick up with
There's a
him,
year time skip.
he's doing brown face in Mexico.
Correct, yes. But he like turns his face into a brown face, which I guess makes it better, question mark?
To be fair, Miles Teller isn't doing brown face.
No, they did not put Miles Teller in brown
It's
face.
a Hispanic gentleman who looks a lot like Miles Teller, which the VFX guys like digitally transformed
Yes.
that guy into Miles Teller.
And you'd never guess. It's perfectly seamless.
Is it?
No.
It's
It's very obvious. But yeah, so it's been a year. We've
Yes.
seen nobody. All these characters are acting differently now, except for Johnny. But they Ben is now a confirmed murderer, right? He has like 43 confirmed kills
confirmed kills
in US DoD service.
Oh god.
The Invisible Woman is now much weirder.
Hey, let's be clear. She has ordered drone strikes. Her only defining character beat earlier in this movie is like she has an ambiguous relationship with Victor Von Goon.
Yes.
And
And with Reed Richards.
and she's making some. It doesn't really come across in the performance because I don't think Katie Mara was having a good time on set. Probably because the director was yelling at her, and probably because they didn't have a great working relationship. Because you can't have that when the director is constantly yelling at you and berating you. But I think it's implied that Katie Mara is supposed to be somewhat attracted to Reed Richards, and that's supposed to be creating interpersonal conflict between her and with Reed. And you see,
Which is perfect.
this is what makes the plot summary so difficult because I don't know what was deleted from this film, and then things were deleted.
Right,
There's
and
a
things were
lost
added,
media
too.
archive for this film with like
Probably a whole
B-roll
other
that
film,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, look, they built a fantastic car prop for this movie,
Right.
and
It's not in there.
yeah, Jamie Bell says he filmed a scene with Katie Mara that they were like, this was really cool. So, I have no doubt that there's some good stuff in here. It's just, it's so incomprehensible.
Maybe, because even what we got, like most of it is not particularly compelling, but it's so hard to tell, like, is this the Josh Trank stuff? Is this the studio reshoot stuff? I don't know, and I can't tell which is which is also a bad sign.
I mean, Katie Mara is wearing a pretty noticeable wig during all of her
That's true.
reshoots.
You can tell with her signs.
And that thing is bright, dude. Like look, and here's the thing, man. If they were filming her in that wig under like the right lighting conditions, maybe dim lighting, maybe like some electrical flashes, like how you might light a horror movie, it might look good.
It wouldn't look.
But when you color
horrible.
grade it to look like a 4-quadrant Avengers movie, well, we see Katie Mara wearing a wig.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what's weird is the stuff with the wig and the stuff without the wig mostly feels like a similar quality.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like we do get some character from her in that she likes patterns, she likes numbers.
That's true.
And she likes listening to, oh, God help me, it's either a I want to say Scandinavian band called Portishead, which, hey, you know what? I will give Josh Trank some credit there. Portishead is a really cool band. They got some cool beats.
Don't know if it's enough to hinge a character on.
You should check out their track Machine Gun. I could definitely imagine Sue Storm listening to Machine Gun.
While machine gunning Iraqi civilians?
No. She would drone strike them because she's really good with computers.
You said Ben in to kill the Iraqi
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, she isolates the landing zone for Ben. She's the invisible woman, not because she can turn invisible, because she can't be detected.
Her contributions to the war effort are invisible.
Yeah, dude. Her Predator drone is undetectable, baby. You are not finding that thing.
On the plus side, I do like the invisible woman effect for her like invisible force fields. It's kind of like watery and bluer than like Fantastic Four First Steps is using, and I like it better.
It looks cool, you know.
I like it a lot.
I mean, here's the thing, dude. All the characters in this movie kind of give me a cold, clinical vibe. Yeah. And you know, Zach, have you seen a lot of David Cronenberg films?
I've seen a few of them, but his also kind of give off that a little bit colder vibe from the characters, but it's in service of something else.
Yeah.
Like it's not
some of the Cronenberg characters appear to be detached,
because he was the one behind the 82 thing, right? Or was it
John Carpenter?
Yes, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know, he made Existenz, A History of Violence, which is a Viggo Mortensen performance. I know you're a big Lord of the Rings fan. We might have to program that at some point, but I don't want to add any more stuff to our spreadsheet.
And I saw The Fly as well. So.
Yeah, but you know that's kind of a hallmark of the Cronenberg films, like in Crash, right? You know, you have characters who are going through life just very cold, very clinical, and then something weird happens with the flesh, where somebody's, you know, having sex in a car wreck, or they grow a weird tentacle thing out of their armpit, and you know, it's a contrast between how these characters were beforehand and how they react to the gruesome alterations of the flesh. It's the Cronenberg thing. Mm-hmm. I kind of think maybe what happened here is, I think Trank wanted to do something like that.
I believe it.
But yeah, hey, Zach, you know, this comic, if you could give it a MPAA rating or an MPA rating, what would you say this is rated? Like, you know, or just, you know, give me an age group you would recommend this for.
Life Story is a little bit higher age rating than I would give to most Fantastic Four comics. It's probably 15, 16, maybe a little higher because there is some more darker Cold War stuff. So maybe 18 if I'm really pushing it.
It's not quite rated R. You know, like personally, I think the Germans do their ratings really well, where they have 0 for like babies and whatever, 6 Jahre alt, you know, it's like the Garfield movie or whatever, where someone burps or is impolite. Right. 12 years old is like Jojo Rabbit, you know, kids can probably handle it. And then you get like Suicide Squad is a PG-13 in the States, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Suicide Squad is a really good comparison for these films, but you know, we'll dig into that later. Suicide Squad is a 15 in Germany. Right. Okay.
And I would say Life Story is probably about that. There's enough Cold War history there that I would say it's probably there.
Now, David Cronenberg's movies, most of those fall into the 18 category, right? R. Those are hard R. Fantastic Four, you're aiming for that like 12 to 15 range. You know,
I think they're even younger even than Life Story.
Dude, you need the PG to PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
For Fantastic Four. I mean, like I don't want to be the nanny state or whatever over here saying, well, you can't do that. You can't have the characters say the word fuck, or you can't have Mr. Fantastic slicing a guy's neck open with a can opener and bathing in the blood that's spewing out from his neck. I mean, you could do that. I just don't think it's very, you know, consistent with what this comic is trying to do.
These are kids' characters ultimately. And I guess that kind of segues us into the next piece of like, that utterly disjointed plot summary was done for a couple of reasons. One, because the plot does feel like that.
Yeah.
And two, because we're trying to reconstruct it. Because we watched this a week ago, which we usually do for our reviews. We watch it, and then we spend about a week trying to kind of research some stuff that we thought about it, or just think through more of what we liked about the movie. I have forgotten most of this movie in a week. It took no time for it to just leave my head and fly off.
Look, generally speaking, when I'm here, when I'm, taking the precious hours of my life to sit down and do this podcast, I want to speak about movies I'm passionate about that, I really enjoy, watching that, I think are laudable in their own way. And then, if we find criticisms, I don't want it to be, well, the sound mix was bad or the technicals were off. Like if we were to review Civil War, which, to be fair, I think you're harsher on that movie than I am.
Yeah, I didn't like it too much. You thought it was decent.
I think, again, that would be a movie where I would sit down. I would have things that I really liked about it. And, I would have criticisms of it because, I think ultimately that movie isn't 100% successful in what it was trying to set out to do. And, we would have a conversation around that. Again, I feel almost kind of bad like reviewing this movie because, it feels unfinished. I mean, say what you will about Suicide Squad. It got to the finish line.
It technically is a movie.
Yeah, like there is a plot in Suicide Squad that you and I would go through. Whereas this just feels so weirdly disjointed where like there is dialogue in this movie that doesn't advance anything, that just feels like you got two people who were kind of going off like vibes.
It's like placeholder dialogue.
Yeah.
They didn't replace,
Yeah, like there's so much ADR throughout this film.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so bad. There are points where you can see the movie is like zoomed in to avoid a character who's speaking so that they get ADR over without them.
Yeah, dude, there are graphs that go nowhere in this thing. Like if you were to look, or if you were to put this through like a AI filter to reverse engineer what was buried in the depth of field, I don't know what you would find on any of like the set dressing. It's just.
The thing gets two very clearly intended to be introductory shots. Like there's an introductory shot of the thing as the thing, right, where he's coming out of the rock pile. And then about 5 to 10 minutes later in the movie, there is another introductory shot of the thing showing that he's turned into rock.
And look, we checked out the teaser trailer for this film that was released in February of 2015.
The movie comes out in August.
Which is... I'm not very good with the math, Zach. That's 6 months later, right?
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more, give or take. That's 6 months. What the hell happened in those 6 months? Because there is footage in that trailer, not just like a shot or two. Because, everyone knows like there's stuff that gets filmed for trailers. Like hell, some trailers come out as special shoots and they're just there to like promote the tone of the movie. They're almost like they're cool little like short films. And then, sometimes it's a little bit more egregious, right? Where, you get like stuff in the Rogue One trailers.
Oh, yeah.
And some of that was just B-roll. Like there's a shot in the Rogue One trailer where it's Jyn Erso who's facing a door and she like leans up and looks towards the camera as like the lighting around her is beaming up. That was just those guys on set fucking around with the camera and the lighting guys. That was literally test footage. So, that's like whatever. But here, there was stuff that was specifically shot.
That was intended to be in the movie. And we can tell because Planet Zero, the first time they land in the teaser trailer, it's all red. And in the final movie, it's all green. Yeah. And it's lit substantially brighter. It's so strange. It's almost surreal to see this movie that clearly is being chopped up as it's being made. Because at least Suicide Squad, they had and like Justice League later stuff, right? They had the decency to finish it. And they're like, oh crap, this isn't testing well. This one feels like they're chopping it up like in the middle of the production of the shoot. And that's, I guess... Transition to the second section. Why is Fan Four Stick this way? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, dude, even with Joss Whedon's Justice League, which I've seen both the Whedon and the Snyder Cut. I mean, I know people don't like to say this, but, technically the Whedon Cut, it works as a movie. It doesn't work very well. It's not a very good movie, but... you can sit down and there's A to B to C to D and it ends, right? I never said it was good. I'm not defending what WB did with Justice League because, I mean, that's the hilarious through line with all of these things where there's like gargantuan amounts of reshoots made. I mean, this is the story behind Solo, right? The Star Wars thing. You
had to get a train in so that we can establish there's trains in the Star Wars universe so that the Disney ride makes sense because there's trains in the ride.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but like, Phil Lord and Chris Miller shot their own version of that movie that I think Ron Howard came in and reshot like 80% of it. And oh man, it gives me a headache talking about films like this, right? Because it's not that I think the or the original cut would have been a masterpiece. Like I don't
No.
think this movie. I hate to say it. I don't want to go into all of it. There's a lot of, I think, interpersonal issues that Josh Trank was working with. And like it appears that he's been working on some of this stuff. I guess I don't know the man. I don't have a relationship with him. But I don't think he was a good collaborator. And even if his cut had come out, I'm not sure it would have been amazing. But I do think it would have been more consistent, and I think it would have been better than what we ultimately got.
Probably would have been better. I'm not even sure it would have been good. It's a very, I guess that's the first point, right? Why Josh Trank for this movie? Because he's on record, he was not a Fantastic Four fan. In fact, he wasn't a superhero fan. He didn't really like superheroes, which again is fine. You don't have to, and that's a valid position to hold, especially in 2015 when superhero movies are way overexposed. But he signs on to do a superhero movie. Previously, his movies are these small indie horror films. So all of a sudden he gets the reins to a superhero movie, which he does not want to do, and he brings his indie horror sensibilities with him. He does not like Fantastic Four. He seems to want to make a movie that is about this cosmic body horror concept, which could work fine. As you mentioned, there are movies that do well. But there's two questions. One, you can't make an hour and a half 4-quadrant blockbuster based on a few body horror scenes.
Yeah, and dude, from what I was reading, he had his pick of the litter.
Right, he didn't have to do.
He was an indie darling. Like this guy is literally, like, I know plenty of local filmmakers here in town who would kill and bury bodies to get where this guy was. And like, yeah, there's part of me that feels like really bad for him, but at the same time, like, man, filmmaking is a team sport, dog. Like you have to be open to collaborate with people.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to do a Fantastic Four movie, that's fine. You certainly don't have to. But then don't sign on
to Fantastic Four. I mean, dude, Chronicle is an interesting movie because Chronicle is like it works. It works, and part of that is because that was a situation where I think Trank actually proved himself as a collaborator, where he was able to work within the confines of what he was doing. He had writers he trusted to work with him. They did what you're probably supposed to do when you're writing a movie. They smoked a lot of weed. They played a lot of video games. They ran ideas back and forth between each other, and they came up with the script for like a pretty good movie. I want to say Chronicle has two writers. I believe it's Max Landis, who is first and foremost credited, which, look, we don't have time to talk about Max Landis.
No.
Suffice to say,
we know about the controversy.
Yeah. You know what? One thing I will give Josh Trank for, the man is consistent with denouncing people. He denounced this movie, and he did denounce Max Landis when he was added as a sex pest. But I want to say the other writer on Chronicle was Jay Slater. So he can work with people. That much is clear to me. Even if that's in a narrow context. And another thing too, when they were filming Chronicle, it was actually shot abroad.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Given the movie's smaller budget, given the fact that Fox executives don't really like to travel that far, and given that it was all found footage, and here's the thing, like if you're shooting handheld, that has a very specific VFX parameter. You cannot change or alter those shots. Trank had like complete control, more or less, on Chronicle. And to his credit, Chronicle is a pretty good movie. I haven't seen it, but other people who I trust say they like it. It's gotten pretty good reviews, and if you're going to rip people off, dude, rip off Cronenberg, rip off Akira,
steal from the best,
steal from the best.
But we have something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So one, Josh Trank is an odd choice. He's pretty clearly directorially not set up. As you mentioned, he has complete control on Chronicle. We go into Fantastic Four. He clearly has nothing remotely like that on FF. In addition to that, This is his first blockbuster. This is a $120 million movie, a little higher than the budget for Chronicle. So not only is he working with that, he's working more with the suits. And let's get to the suits, because Fox decided to make this movie out of the most corporate possible decision, which was looking at their legal rights and being like, oh crap, if we don't make another Fantastic Four movie soon, we're going to lose the rights back to Marvel, and we want to keep the rights. So let's make another Fantastic Four movie. And that's what they did. They made another Fantastic Four movie, technically.
And you know what else, Zach? Look, it's clear to me Josh Trank treated people badly on this set. I don't think he was a good collaborator.
Particularly Kate Mara, yeah.
You know, maybe on this one he had an opportunity to be the bigger man, to do a one for them. That's not what he did.
No, he decided to make the movie for him, despite the fact that, again, he signed on to Fantastic Four despite not wanting to make a Fantastic Four movie.
That being said, Simon Kinberg was the producer on this, who, if the name sounds familiar, didn't you see X-Men Dark Phoenix in theaters?
Oh, I did see X-Men Dark Phoenix.
He was the director of X-Men Dark Phoenix.
X-Men Dark Phoenix? The best X-Men movie ever?
I know, the one that everyone always talks about. You know, like when we all saw Deadpool and Wolverine, they had that whole scene where Jean Grey from X-Men Dark Phoenix was in there.
Oh, I love that
And then
scene.
Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique came back.
Not in blue, you know, because she didn't want to sit in the
And you know, of all the superhero movies that came out in 2019, we were all really stoked on Dark Phoenix.
That's the one that we remember the most.
Yeah. It wasn't that silly end of game thing that they did with like Spider-Man and his weird friends.
We're partying like it's 1981, guys. It's
That's
X-Men
right,
Dark
boy.
Phoenix. But no, Dark Phoenix sucks. It's a bad movie.
Yeah. I don't think Simon Kinberg was making good decisions on this film either.
No.
I think this is one of those rare cases where, dude, this is a perfect storm, right? Where you have all of the wrong ingredients at the wrong time.
Yeah, the director's a weird choice. The cast isn't gelling. The studio's angry at the director who they chose to make the movie. The director's angry at the studio because he doesn't want to make the movie that they want to make. They're angry at the director because he's trying to make the movie he wants to make, which is not what they hired him to do.
And he's 26, by the way.
Yeah, which is younger than we are.
Yeah. And look, quite frankly, I don't think a 26-year-old man should like go and direct a movie. And I know
not a 4-quadrant blockbuster.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I think one of the things like dude, the more I read about Trank, it doesn't make me feel good. I'm like, I'm sad, dude. That really sucks, because like this whole guy's thing that he said to his parents, if I don't make it by 27, then I'm gonna give up. Because that's when Steven Spielberg made Jaws. And you know, granted, that was amazing that Steven Spielberg did that.
Incredible.
Steven Spielberg is a generational talent.
Right.
He's a juggernaut. Now, that being said, he was having panic attacks and mental breakdowns and was, you know, suffering really for years after making Jaws. You know, that was something he had to go to therapy for. He was under so much pressure to deliver this shark movie for Universal that it was impacting the man's sleep. His hairs were turning gray. And that's not really something I hear a lot of people talking about when they're talking about, well, Spielberg made Jaws at 27. Yes, he did.
And it cost him.
And it cost him a lot.
29, yeah.
No, seriously, it ruined his year making Jaws. You know, I'm happy that he triumphed, but you know that's not really a standard that I think you should be holding yourself to. And
you're right that the more you read about this production, it goes from being like extremely boring to wow, this is fascinating to like oh god, and the more you're digging in, right? It sounds like Trank wanted to make his movie that I already kind of think wouldn't have been great. Fox is just like, well, why are you making this movie? They're fighting on set. It sounds like through most of the back half of the movie, they didn't have a script. Like Trank never completed a script with his collaborators to finish the back half of the movie. So they're shooting like on improvised pages. They're writing basically as they're shooting, which is wild. You have these actors who clearly are not having the time of their lives. It sounds like Miles Teller was also pretty much a diva on set, kind of very difficult to work with. So the actors aren't gelling properly. You've got very clearly nobody knows what it's going to look like at the end of it. It's pretty clear to everybody on set that it's going to be a disaster. Like, this isn't working.
Nobody feels good about this movie.
Yeah, nobody's happy about this movie. Including, incidentally, even Marvel, who is completely off on the other side of the world, obviously, making comics. They're busy doing their thing. Marvel cancels Fantastic Four the comic, their longest running Marvel comic, right? During this movie's production, specifically so that they don't promote this movie, which is just another thing to add on to the cursed part of this movie. And also partially because they were worried about this movie damaging the brand of Fantastic Four. I don't know how canceling your comic fixes that problem, but there it is. So this movie is absolutely cursed on every possible side. And you can see the tracks going on. And I hesitate to even say in front of the train. They're going on like under the train as it's running, and it's clearly derailing. And the movie comes out, and Michael, does it do well?
Oh man. It's funny you mentioned that question. This movie stars Jamie Bell. And for those of you who don't know Jamie Bell, which, to be honest with you, I don't even think he's that bad as the Thing. I don't think he gets a lot to do. The only reason why I bring up Jamie Bell in relation to his nationality is because he is British. This movie pulls $4 million in the UK. It pulls, $3 million out of France. It pulls $1 million out of Spain, $1 million out of Italy. Now, Zach, it might sound weird that I'm grabbing from all of these other countries that aren't America.
That's true. They're not American.
They're not American countries. Well, Zach, that's because this pulls $25 million domestic.
Ooh, that is not good on a $120 million budget.
Yeah, and look, that's the $120 million figure that I'm looking at right now on Box Office Mojo. I suspect that number was higher.
It's got to be.
Because, look, that's even before did you triple it? Well, no. I mean, no. Because if you do triple it, we're looking at, like 360 million.
And it might even be more than that due to all the reshoots.
But here's the thing. This movie absolutely had to cost a lot more money than what's being stated.
There's no way.
Dude, you've seen those triangle graphs, right? Where you can get a movie that, or you can get any product that's good and fast, but it won't be cheap, or you can get a product that's
cheap and fast,
that's fast and cheap, but it won't be good. Well, yeah, they chose fast, and
I think just fast. Actually.
I don't think they went for the other.
It's definitely
because
not good.
it wasn't cheap, and it didn't turn out to be good. And again, dude, like the VFX company, those guys
They're heroes. Good God,
dude. I think of a follow-up to this episode could be like what happened to this VFX company, because Life of Pi is a much more accomplished movie than this.
That's true.
I think it's a lovely film, and the tiger, Richard Parker, in it, who's his own character, who's a CGI creation that was brought to life by Ang Lee and this brilliant VFX studio. Well, that studio went bankrupt. Life of Pi bankrupted that studio. Everyone got laid off when that movie flopped. I hope that the studio that worked on this film, I hope they got paid in advance. I hope they weren't negotiating for like back end points.
Oh God, yeah, they negotiated for like percentage of gross. They got nothing.
Yeah.
Look,
dude, I hope everybody got paid up front for this movie.
Yeah, I seriously hope they asked, because there's no profits coming in on this movie.
Yeah.
Even in Hollywood accounting, there's no profits. And also, this movie does so well with critics, right? At least the critical reception will help.
This has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And frankly, that seems high. I'd love to meet the critics who are like, it's
not that bad. Actually, I did look at some IMDb reviews at the time, because I wanted to see who was really passionate about this movie. And this actually does have some 10-star ratings.
Who? Like from actual critics, or like from online people?
From online people.
Okay, I don't trust them. I think you have to be trolling to give this a 10 out of 10.
Because dude, like everyone, I feel like the people who did give a positive review of this movie, who weren't trolling, I want to say they're in the 6s. Like here, we have one guy who says on IMDb, not as bad as everyone says. Fantastic Four 2015 is a good movie. Josh Trank show us a new view on Fantastic Four. This review going to be short, but it contains the most important aspects. Movie wasn't bad, but it was a new Fantastic Four, and it's not as bad as everyone says. It's not a comics one at all. Blah blah blah.
That's true. To be fair, it is a new take on the Fantastic
Trank
Four.
is a good director, but must fight more for his projects. I vote 10 just because everyone thinks it's bad, but it's actually not. Go to the cinema and make your own opinion. That's a 6 out of 10 review.
6 feels okay. If you like this movie, 6 feels about where I would put it. If I
Someone calls it a entertaining adventure, and one says not as bad as some are making it out to be. These are 6 out of 10 ratings, by the way. I just want to be very clear about that.
Yeah, what would you give this movie out of 10, Michael? If you had to give it a rating.
Okay, well, look, Zach, I told you I was going to be fair.
Yeah.
So, look, man, when I think about my rating system, if we're going on 5 stars, one of those stars has to be for the sound design. Another star is going to be for the cinematography. I suppose, the performances count. I like strong writing. I want to see a very visible character arc in my films. And then, I think I reserved that 5th star for that je ne sais quoi, that X factor, and hey, I have my biases. There are some things that are just going to appeal more to me, and that's kind of where that 5th star comes into, like, look, I hate to say it.
It is subjective.
If someone showed me a really like incredible film about, a chef doing chef stuff, that's like a amazing movie, it might not necessarily be a 5-star movie for me because I might not relate to it.
How dare you impugn Ratatouille, Michael?
Right. So, if I were to break this movie down on my criteria, first, dude, I'm going to start with the stuff I liked. The Foley work. I thought the Foley was very good in this film. I mean, the soundtrack was serviceable. It was kind of, it doesn't stick out in my head. But it did the trick.
Forgettable, yeah, but it was fine.
Dude, I do think like when the movie is like color graded to be a horror movie, I think some of those scenes were really cool. Like the scene where Mr. Fantastic realizes that he's Stretch Armstrong was like really scary. That was really rad.
That was really good.
This might be a difference of opinion between you and me, but I think Dr. Doom's costume was pretty cool. I actually, you know what, dude? I think the costume design in this is interesting. It's on point.
I will actually say that, yeah, the costume design was surprisingly cool. They had this kind of feeling of like slapdash, like military costuming for FF, which is actually a surprisingly normal way to take them. Technically, the Fantastic Four uniforms are not costumes. They're technically utilitarian jumpsuits. I mean, functionally they're costumes, but yeah, I actually did like that part where like the Invisible Woman's is designed to kind of like help keep her visible. Johnny's is designed to like bleed heat since he's always on fire. He can't turn it off. Reed's is like a bunch of kind of cobbled together braces to keep him from stretching because again he can't turn it off, and the Thing's just going naked. He's just out.
Yeah. And hey man, the DP, yeah, I think the DP chose some pretty good shots for this film. There were some aerial views of New York City that were pretty appealing to me. The early like childhood flashbacks, the kid flashbacks, hey dude, that's good lighting.
That's true.
They're doing interesting things with some of the set design. Do you see where I'm going here? I'm being,
there are pieces that are good.
Yeah, but ultimately, regardless of how many stars I will give something, movies are kind of pass fail at the end of the day.
Right.
I'm sorry. I said I was gonna be nice, so I'm gonna continue being nice. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. Man,
he actually does
Michael
a really
B.
good
Jordan.
job. Yeah.
Dude, I think he was a really good Johnny Storm.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed his performance quite a bit.
Hell, if Marvel these days, they're all about, oh, we like this guy from like the 2003 movies. We're going to drop him into a Secret Wars type thing. Look, man, if Michael B. Jordan showed up as the Human Torch and high-fived Chris Evans or whatever, and if they all like, I don't know, flamed on and started twerking to the camera, you know what? Sure, why not? Cool.
They did also do a cool thing with his suit where, because he's on fire,
yeah,
you need to light the
that
fire.
was cool lighting,
so
man.
they put like a bunch of LEDs that are like flickering on his suit to make the lighting bounce off correctly, which again only makes sense if you have dim lower level lighting where the flickering matters and not the overexposed lighting that they end up having. But that was actually really cool, and I think Michael B. Jordan seemed to be having the most fun of anybody on set.
Yeah,
he's definitely present the most in the behind the scenes features.
Like dude, here's the thing. I'm shitting on this movie again, and I feel really bad about it, but all of the characters kind of feel like maybe extensions of Josh Trank's personality, and I feel like Michael B. Jordan stands out just because, he has a very, like, I mean, from what I can see, he seems like a nice guy. You know, he seems like he's got a very lively personality, and I feel like some
He's
of
a street
that.
racer. I know he likes things.
I mean, dude, I feel like he also had just a little bit more character to go off of here. Where like, dude, even in this truncated form of this movie, I understood his arc and his motivations. Right? I understood that he's a street racer. He doesn't have a good relationship with his father, who thinks he can do better. And when Dr. Goon, Victor Von Goon, I'm gonna get all the mileage I can out of that joke. When Victor Von Goon kills his father, he's angry and is like, I'm gonna go get you, Victor. And that's, you understand how he gets to the third act.
That's true. I don't know. I mean, that's not high praise, which is the real problem with a lot of this movie. Is even when we're being nice.
Hey, Von Goon. He has a cool looking outfit. Okay,
I am not as high. Not because it doesn't look like the comics. That's fine if it doesn't look like the comics. I just think it looks bad.
I don't think again, the lighting really damns that thing, because dude, I feel like if you saw him walking in like a dark, misty hallway with the green LED highlights on his face, and maybe if you're not paying a lot of attention to his mouth, because his mouth doesn't move.
Well, it's because he like his breather from the planet got like fused to his face or something. Is the explanation?
Which, dude, that looks cool, but like, there's how you shoot things, how you light things, and then how it gets color graded in post.
I'm not coming down as positively on it. Again, not just because it doesn't look like the comics. That's fine. And even, to be fair, they did keep his green color scheme. But like, why does he look like he's wearing tinfoil?
That's a good point.
I did like the green, like, kind of crack highlights. That could have been fun with the lighting if they had used it, where he's like glowing a little bit. But they don't use it.
Yeah. Oh, and dude, when this movie decides to suddenly turn into a violent, grotesque, R-rated horror film with Doctor Doom telepathically like exploding people's heads, that was violent as shit,
and comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, dude, like seriously.
But it's okay, because then he does his big sky beam, his blue sky beam.
He does a blue sky beam, yes.
And he's gonna turn the whole world into the other dimension, because
reasons.
Yeah. So he's gonna turn the world into the other planet, right? But then it's just like a superhero dust up. It's just like a normal superhero movie where they're like, "We're the power of teamwork. I'm gonna punch him in the face." I don't want to use his clobbering time because that reminds me of the trauma.
And Ben Grimm's mocap performance is like pretty good. It's just, well, I feel like he doesn't get a lot of other emotions to play with besides angry and resentful and sad. Even when he is, Ben Grimm, the human being, and not the Rock. He's still just angry and resentful and sad.
They wrote him out of the movie for half of it, remember?
Yeah, he just disappears.
He goes with Reed to the Baxter building, which is like a building in New York with science. And they're like, wow, we made it, Ben, we made it, Reed, we did it. And then Ben just, I guess, goes back to living in the junkyard, literally the junkyard. And then later Reed's like, oh yeah, we gotta call him up. I gotta get my money on the dimensional plane.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. In fact, I feel like there was a lot more Ben Grimm footage that we saw excised in the trailer. There's also other footage. Maybe we
could have seen some of his 43 confirmed kills.
Well, here's the thing. You did see some of his 43 confirmed kills. There's a shot in one of the trailers for this movie where he's hanging on to an airplane and he like drops out of it and he, it's clobbering time, dude. He whoops some ass. We don't get to see that because I suspect they probably did a, cost benefit analysis of rendering all the VFX workflow for that scene, and we're probably like, no.
They did still keep the 43 confirmed kills though. He is confirmed.
Oh yeah,
a member of the American expedition to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh god, that would actually be a terrifying movie if you would frame it
from the perspective of the Iraqis.
Like look, this is literally a scene out of The Boys where Homelander shows up at like a Pakistani village and kills a bunch of people. That could work.
Can you imagine you're fighting in the Iraqi army and this man made of rock just drops out of the sky and starts attacking you
and kills your guys? Yeah, that would be so scary, dude. I mean,
that's the real horror film.
Oh god, yeah. I'm dude. I guess what really bums me out about this movie is, in some alternate universe, where maybe Josh Trank is a little bit more like well adjusted, and where Simon Kinberg is a more competent producer, there could be like a really cool version of this movie that's not called Fantastic Four, that's like 90 minutes long, that's about the military industrial complex and how it's seeking to transform bright, eccentric young minds into monstrosities. You could
If that's
do
even the Josh
something
Trank
with
cut,
that.
some of that had the Kate Mara wig, so maybe that's not even what Trank wanted.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I definitely think I'm coming down a little harsher on this movie. I don't want to be the negative person all the time.
Zach,
but I don't think there's a version of this that's good.
I'm not
I don't
going
think
to
the
watch
Josh Trank
this
cut's
again.
better.
And, you know, it's not like, look, man, I keep on talking about the what ifs and the could be's and all these other things, but like, we're never going to see that film. Okay.
No.
Like what happened with the Snyder cut is like,
I don't think there's a hard drive version of this Trank cut somewhere. I think it's gone.
No. And I hate to say it, dude, I pulled this out of a bargain bin. Okay. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I paid $5 for this. I kind of wish I paid $2.50.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I have derived my enjoyment from it. You know, it's allowed us to do this episode. I'm not, you know, resentful that I paid $5 to watch this, but I guess, dude, that's my biggest complaint about this movie is I'm bummed. You know?
Yeah, I guess I do not like movies that exist purely to create IP. Right? We talked a little bit. We both saw Alien Romulus, and I watched it a little bit more recently than you did. You definitely liked it more than I did. Like, I don't want to be the negative person here.
It's okay,
but
someone has to be.
Yeah, I guess
I'm the good cop. You're the bad cop.
That's my job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit just creatively bankrupt. Technically, it's very good. Like,
Yes.
the shooting is very solid. The lighting is very good. I liked a lot of the soundtrack, most of it. Most of the performances are pretty solid. I just, what's it saying? And I guess that's my kind of rating for movies a lot is more holistic and focused on, like, what does this movie want to convey, right? What's the theme? What's the point? What's the point? And this movie has no point. This movie exists so that Fox can keep the rights to Fantastic Four away from Marvel long enough to get acquired by Marvel in a few years so that Marvel can cancel their comic, I guess, so that Josh Trank can make a big blockbuster movie that goes so badly he doesn't make another movie for 5 years. No one came out of this movie well. And this movie did not need to exist. And the fact now that it does exist, the world is no better for having been in it. It might even be a little bit worse. Kate Mara got traumatized on the making of the set.
I hate to
Josh
say
Trank's
it.
career ended. Like,
This Blu-ray case, I don't even like, dude. How am I going to throw this away? Because it's not like we have a lot of recycling infrastructure built up in Colorado Springs.
yeah.
And I don't just want to throw this in the garbage. I mean, if I bring it back to Entertain Mart, I'm looking at maybe
Look at like 30 cents for it.
10 cents. You know, it's not a whole lot of money. You know, I mean, look, I'm someone who also kind of, you know, champions physical media. I think
both of
physical
us
media
are.
is, you know, important to have around. You know, I think it's cool because we get to at least partially, you know, own these cool stories, but I kind of wish I just streamed this.
Yeah. And I guess that's the key, right? If we forgot about this in a week,
Yeah.
that's kind of the saddest part of this movie. It feels like if it didn't exist, nothing would have changed. And that is so bleak.
Because look, dude, the ultimate, you know, test of whether a movie holds up or like whether it's good is, you know, who is going to rescue this in 10 years to do a, oh God, 10
It's
years
been
from
10
now.
years, yeah.
But, you know, I guess it's 2025 and 2035 when we have either no Blu-rays or super ultra 8K hyper hologram resolution.
Bold of you to assume that it's not just all streaming services that are $100 a month and you can't get the ads disabled. Yeah.
Look, I'm trying to be hopeful here. I mean, I've seen the numbers. We'll be lucky if we still have Blu-rays in 10 years. But assuming we do, and assuming we've moved on to my proprietary 8K holographic super 3D super media.
Right.
You know, I mean, look, we'll get Jurassic Park. We'll get Apocalypse Now. We'll probably get Alien Romulus. Enough people enjoyed it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anyone coming to rescue this.
And yeah, that's the difficulty. What's particularly ironic about this too is that despite the fact that nobody involved seems to have want to made a Fantastic Four movie, I believe the only reason this movie is watched, and really the only reason we're talking about it, is because it is a Fantastic Four movie. It's emblematic of that fact that, like, we don't like IP, but we still watch this movie. despite the fact that this is the worst version of an IP film.
Yeah.
Right? If this was a normal movie, right, made for $120 million that came out, would anyone have seen it, and would it be remembered? It might be remembered as an interesting disaster, right, as the movie on fire. Would it be remembered as a movie? I suspect that this is talked about more because it is a Fantastic Four movie, despite the fact that nobody involved cared about it being a Fantastic Four movie.
And look, to be fair, would I actually recommend this movie?
No.
Well,
I would not. Don't watch this movie.
Like, personally, if you are a aspiring filmmaker, if you want to make movies, I kind of think you should watch this. I think you should pay the $5. I think you should sit down. I think you should.
It's probably on Disney Plus, actually.
Dude, I mean, look, Josh Trank is an interesting guy, in my opinion.
Agreed.
He's not someone I want to emulate, but his story of overworking himself, of not being able to, because like I'm reading this Collider article, which goes into exhaustive detail. I'm going to link that in the description notes. Dude, it made me sad because it reminded me of every time I didn't take care of myself. Where I let my, emotions get the best of me, and where, I didn't like actually take the time to rest and to, clean up my room and to make sure that, things are most like my ducks are mostly in a row, because like, look, making movies, it's really hard. And, I just think that for a variety of different reasons, this guy was not up to the challenge. And, I think there are external factors, but I think there's a lot going on with this person that prevented him from being able to collaborate in this context. And honestly, it's sad, dude. It's like a sad story.
And I guess the difficult question there is, would you recommend watching the movie?
Dude,
or would you recommend reading this Collider article about the making of this movie?
I would recommend both because, where the movie comes in handy, look, man, watching perfect movies, I don't think it's really useful. I think, I guess I'll say this. When you're doing a project, sometimes it helps to have two examples, like the perfect, like shoot for the stars. And then, but for some people like me, it's also handy having a what not to do guide. And, dude, you mentioned how unfinished this looks. Well, that's probably because there wasn't a whole lot of like continuity going on in this movie. That's because there's stuff missing. If, Zach, you're looking at this, you're like, where are the character arcs? Dude, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And I think watching this movie and analyzing how it doesn't work can actually help filmmakers understand the ways in which their own projects might be flawed.
All right, you've convinced me. If you are specifically an aspiring filmmaker,
yes,
watching Fantastic, great call.
Yes.
If you are anything else,
yeah, no. If you're anyone else, no,
don't watch Fantastic.
Just don't.
You should go watch Fantastic Four First Steps. It's reasonably solid.
Yes.
If you want a good Fantastic Four movie, that's it.
Yeah.
It's not exceptional.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah. No. I saw First Steps, and I gotta tell you, it was. Oh, jeez, dude. It's been such a busy year. I feel like everyone who's tuned into politics right now is like, oh my god, it's like a year, but it feels like 1,000. Oh god. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. Now, First Steps was good. I would like to watch it again.
Maybe when the Blu-ray comes out, we'll pick it up and take a look or something.
Yeah, again, this is our biggest condemnation of Fantastic is we keep on talking about different properties and films. But
it's just too boring.
Dude, I think at some point I'm going to sub to Disney Plus for a month because I've heard lovely things about Alien Earth. They have a Marvel Zombies thing coming out that's like an anime, it's like a cartoon thing. That looks pretty fun. And hell, by the time I do resub to Disney Plus, Fantastic Four First Steps should be on there. And that movie has some cool stuff. You got Galactus being a Galactus guy with the helmet, and that movie played with scale really well. It had all these cool shots with people about the size of like a little action figure on the bottom of the frame. Hell, I accidentally saw it in 3D. Didn't mean to. Saw it in 3D anyways. It was pretty good.
And maybe while you're scanning through Disney Plus, you'll see Fantastic.
And then like all four of the Fantastic Four, like they get an arc. I mean,
do.
not
Well,
really the Thing.
Thing doesn't really do much, yeah,
But you know, he's like solid, dude. He's like such a bro in that movie. He's a cool guy in that
solid
movie.
as a rock, you know?
He's as solid as a
Solid
rock.
as a
yeah,
rock.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he gets to deliver Sue Storm's baby, whereas you know, in this movie, I mean, it's funny because he ends up marrying Katie Mara.
The actor
Jamie Bell.
Yes, the
ends
actor
up marrying
Jamie Bell married Kate Mara.
Katie Mara.
The Thing in the movie Fan Forstick did not marry Kate Mara,
This
the real
Thing-
life actress.
This Thing in this movie just wants to die. Whereas the Thing in First Steps, he just wants to learn how to cook a little bit better, you know? And I think that's cool, man, you know? Oh, God, I'm sorry. I'm running out of steam here. There's just not a lot else to say about Fan Forstick. I stand by my recommendation, but if you're not an aspiring filmmaker,
I guess, yeah, for me, Fan Forstick, like, a movie like Suicide Squad, right? Is a train wreck in that, like, you've seen it go off the rails, right? Everything's exploding. You're like, wow, I hate watching this, but man, it's fascinating.
Hey, dude, Suicide Squad actually works really good at parties, you know?
I believe it.
Especially at parties where people are too f***ed up to remember what even happened like 5 minutes ago. I mean, Suicide Squad is so, you know, disjointed. It actually kind of works with that movie. And they have all these constant needle drops. And, you know, you have Margot Robbie, like, half stripping to M&M's Without Me. Does it work for a very specific context? Kinda, you know?
And yeah, Fan Forstick, unfortunately, it's a train wreck where something, like, boring went wrong. Like, the brakes went on too hard or something. The train stopped. And you drive by and you're like, oh,
like,
glad I'm not on that train.
Like, and look, I kept on harking on about this, but Sue Storm is really into music in this movie, right?
They keep telling us that, yes.
Why couldn't we get the Portishead needle drop? They're cheap. I'm sure they won't mind.
Michael,
You know, I'm
quote
I'm
from
sorry.
Michael Portishead. They're cheap.
We're
so sorry to the entire
I'm
band
so
of
sorry,
Portishead.
but you know, I'm sure what I meant to say is they could have come to an arrangement, you know? I mean, it's 20th Century Fox. If anyone has the money to buy music, it would have been them.
They already spent $120 million. They knew this movie was going to be bad.
So you're telling me they went up to Portishead with like $5 and a McDonald's gift card, and we're like, "Can we play your music?" And they were like, "No."
I'm going to pitch you that they didn't know Sue was going to be into Portishead until like the second before the movie released. They're like, oh crap, we got to give her a band. Kate, what are you listening to? And she was like, I'm not listening to anything. They just like polled the office. They're like, what do you guys have on Spotify? What do you have? Portishead? Put that in.
Oh God, so you don't even think it was Josh Trank's music. You think it was Katie Mara's music.
I don't know who's music. I think it was just whoever on the set was listening to music.
Dude, yeah, there was probably some poor PA who was like listening to one of their albums in the car on their commute earlier. Like, I don't know, looking at his phone.
Just pitch the last band they heard.
God, that's bleak. Jesus. Okay. Well, folks, that was Fan Forstick, aka Fantastic Four, aka Fantastic Four 2015.
This movie is technically called Fantastic Four.
If anyone would like this copy, and if you reside in Colorado, I will happily give it to you.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay. Well, folks, that's all she wrote for Movies on Fire. We'll see you for the next episode.
So loud in my earphones.
Movies on Fire. Movies on Fire.